In our previous class, we saw what is a geographic information system, what is GIS, and what are the applications of GIS. Today, let us discuss about the history of geographic information system. You can see a picture here. He is none other than Ian McHugh, who lived from 1920 to 1981, and he's a professor. He is called the father of the geographical information system. So, telling about Ian McHugh, Ian L. McHugh, he was born and raised in Scotland, and he came to the United States after World War II to get a master's degree in 1952. In 1954, he took a position as professor of landscape architecture and regional planning at the University of Pennsylvania and came to be recognized worldwide for introducing ecological concerns into land planning from the mid of 1960s onwards. He is an ardent environmentalist and writer. He was one of the prime movers in organizing the first Earth Day in 1970. He was a partner in the landscape architecture and environmental planning from Wallace. McHugh, Roberts, and Todd. So in the right side, you can see a picture of Design with the Nature. So this is a book published on Geographical Information System by Ian McHugh. So Design with the Nature, it's a very famous book. So this Ian McHugh, he is called the father of map overlays, which had a major impact on geographical information systems. Okay, and this book, this Design with the Nature, was written by him in the year 1969. And McHugh, he saw the industrial centers as urban plight, filled with pollution that ultimately damaged one's soul as well as health. And he felt that mass grading by engineers created sterile man-made environments devoid of aesthetic buffers in their rush to mass produce the maximum number of units in a minimum space. He felt that this was inevitably unhealthy for society at large. And he described engineers as those individuals who, by instinct and training, were especially suited to gauge and scar landscape and city without remorse. Okay, in this slide, you can see a particular land region which is classified into unforested plateau, forested plateau, valley wall, valley floor. Okay, it is divided into 4 regions, 4 different classifications. So, McHugh, he started his starting point was usually a physiographic section like that. This was shown here. Like this, he classified a region and he argued that form must not follow function but must also respect the natural environment in which it is placed. So, the main purpose of this geographical information system, the intention of the development of geographical information system was environmental awareness. Okay, and he noted the placement of structures in the forested slopes which made them almost unnoticeable. See, because of this industrialization, a lot of industries started around the world, and these industries created a lot of pollutions to the environment. There was no proper system to monitor this pollution and the environment. So, the environmental awareness was the main target or the main issue behind this development of geographical information system. So, what did this Mekhag do? He actually took the landscape principles of aesthetics and applied these to maps. So, what happened? His basic amenity map portrayed slopes with wooded cover as a valuable asset, akin to a city park. Earth-sheltered structures could be constructed on the slopes if they were embedded into the rock with a minimal loss of tree cover. Hence, the term urban camouflage or designing with the nature. So that is how he wrote his book, Designing with Nature. And he usually began with a physiographic features map. And this example compared forest cover, aquifer recharge, 50-year flood plan, 50-year flood plains, streams, slopes greater than 25%, and impervious soil in a master overlay. That is why in the previous class I told you an example of monitoring the landslide. Okay, so you can take the map. You can develop a map. So what are the past history of landslides in the particular regions and the nearby places? What are the possibility of landslides in the future? You can study on that. And in the early days or early years, these hybrid maps, that is the physiographic map as well as the basic amenity map. So these together we call it as hybrid maps. So these hybrid maps were constructed of acetate overlays on a cadastral base map. Also, he created another map called the optimal land use map. So here, in the case of optimal land use map, he combined physiographic features with existing infrastructure, development and zoning restrictions, which were weighted to the taste of local residents and regulatory boards. So we saw about basic amenity map, physiographic features map and optimal land use map. Also, the physiographic features were catalogued as separate maps. And he would then overlay these to create a composite map illustrating the physiographic obstructions. And areas containing multiple features would appear as the darkest, might be valued more than lighter colored areas. Okay, so if there are multiple features in the map, that will be marked as darkest points. If the land with less features, one or two features, then they will be appearing as lighter colored areas. So you can differentiate which region has multiple features and which region has less features. Okay, now you can see the different maps. So you can see two maps, one in blue color and another one in green color. So blue color represents the water features and the green color represents land features. Okay, so also you can see two columns. One represents the phenomena and the second column is recommended land uses. So you can see in the blue colored map, that is in the water featured map, you can see different colors, different blue colors, that is thick blue colors, light blue colors, white color, etc. So these all things, that is this dark blue, the first one you can see, there is a layer, there is a surface of dark blue. So that is surface water and riparian lands. So which means that lands, such lands can be used for ports, harbors, marines, water treatment plants, water related industries, open space for institutional and housing use, agriculture, forestry, and recreation purposes. Then that is dark green, you can see, that is marshes which can be used for recreation purpose. Again, somewhat blue, light blue, it is 50-year floodplains, the details of 50-year floodplains, and these regions can be used for ports, harbors, marines, water treatment plants, water related and water using industry, agriculture, forestry, recreation, institutional, open space, and open space for housing. Again, the next blue is for aquifers, which can be used for agriculture, forestry, recreation, industries that do not produce toxic or offensive effluents, and all land uses within limits set by percolation. Likewise, we have aquifer recharge areas, which can be used as aquifers, that is the water bodies. Then we have prime agricultural lands, which these lands can be used for agriculture, forestry, recreation, open space for institutional housing, etc. Then you have steep lands, so these steep lands can be used for forestry, recreation, housing at maximum density of one house per 3 acres where wooded. Then the next phenomena is forest and woodlands, which can be used for forestry, recreation, housing at densities not higher than one house per acre. Okay, so this is one small example of how can you use geographical information system for analyzing the water features and land features of a particular land area. So, McHugh, he pioneered the use of map overlays to highlight intrinsic natural features that commonly included flood zones, wetlands, woody vegetation stands, slopes, drainages, aquifer recharge zones, areas under cultivation, and man-made features. And each asset could be assigned an arbitrary value depending on social input. He also demonstrated that a plethora of societal traits could be represented on maps as well and overlain in much the same manner as composite physiographic abstractions. These tended to mimic property values. See, you can see some of the societal traits which he has plotted on the maps, and he has named it as homicide, where a lot of people are homicides, made to homicide in groups, killed in groups. Then the suicidal attempts, the suicidal points, suicide, the drug addiction, where the people are more addicted to drugs, the area where people are more addicted to drugs, alcoholism, robbery, rape, aggravated assault, juvenile delinquency, infant mortality, etc. And his map overlay method, it gained national recognition in a consulting project for a 5-mile stretch of the controversial Richmond Parkway on Staten Island in 1968. And his hybrid map included ecological, political, and aesthetic rankings that were combined with the physical attributes to select a transportation corridor that would have the least impact on the residents. Now, his measurement, that is McHugh's map layering concept, is shown in the figure. And his measurement, mapping, monitoring, and modeling. So these are called McHugh's 4 M's. Meghartz. See, he is the father of GIS. He developed this concept, that is map layering concept. And this concept consists of measurement, mapping, monitoring and modeling. So these four techniques or these four contents are called Meghartz 4M. Okay, repeat: measurement, mapping, monitoring and modeling. And this GIS allows a limitless combination of mappable attributes to be arbitrarily weighted and electronically combined to create hybrid maps, which are simply spatial representations using the Earth's surface as their data. So, let us see the concept. So, first one is the measurement. So, once the measurement, we have decided what should be measured and how it has to be measured. It may be temperature, it may be the physiological features, etc. So once the measurement is taken, it has to be mapped. So after mapping is done, the next step is you can use it for monitoring. So that is why I told you in the last class, you can use this GIS for landslide monitoring purpose. So the after monitoring, it can be used for modeling. Okay, and it can be this mapping and monitoring and modeling together. You can use it for the further applications of land use or land cover, ownership, vegetations, hydrology, etc. And these measurements can be done in terms of raster files or vector data files. See, these both are spatial information, spatial data. Last class we talked about spatial observations, right? Spatial information. So both raster data as well as vector data are spatial information. This raster data is continuous data, whereas vector data is discontinuous data or discrete data. See, when there is a specific boundary, for example, you can say road, rivers, etc. They have specific boundaries. So those information can be measured as vector files, whereas measuring the temperature, pressure, etc., it varies from time to time for a particular place. It do not have a specific boundary. So these data can be represented as raster data. So here the observation, the information is gathered in terms of raster and vector data file eminent from differentiating methods of data collection and creation. You can use any data collection method. So raster data files handle complex curvature typical of natural features, while vector files favor linear or man-made features. In general, the man-made features. And you can see the diagram. Okay, you can see the raster imagery and vector layers. So how the data are observed. Next is spatial data models. I told you both raster data as well as vector data, both are spatial data. Okay, so the comparison between the spatial data models from 1960s to 2000 is given in this tabular column. So what about the computer and how this raster data is absorbed, that is bit from 1960s to 1970s, and then 1970s to 1980s the vector data, we started to observe the vector data, and the mixture of these both, the hybrid data, we started to observe from 1980s to 2000s and till to date. Okay, then the computer, it was the cost wise, we can have three different types of computer or systems is given: mainframes, personal computers XT and premium 4. So this is just for your notification, that is all. So GIS, Geographical Information System, has evolved with the computing technology. So without computers, without softwares and hardwares, there is no geographical information system. So GIS has evolved with the computing technology. And today, the raster and vector data can be combined with increasingly sophisticated digital imagery, manipulating large data files. And things will be clear for you. You will get the clarity only when you do some problems or do some exercises in softwares. Okay, we will do it in our coming classes. Next, before concluding, let me tell about, so that's all about the history. So today, nowadays, this GIS, Geographical Information System, has evolved with computing technology, and we use raster data with vector data, and we use all sophisticated tools nowadays. And before ending the history, let me speak about global positioning system. Okay, you see, for example, we use GPS, global positioning system, while traveling to find the location. So GPS is a positioning system. We will get the details of a particular location. But geographical information system, we get the information about a geographical area. So that is the difference between geographical information system and global positioning system. So with the raster data, with the vector data, with the combined data, with the application of the latest softwares, the computing technology, today's geographical information system has found its application in almost every fields, everywhere. So that is the history of a geographical information system. Thank you for today.